I am Lisa.
And I'm Eric. Do you want to improve your English easily? If so, you're in the right place.
Okay, today we'll listen to a podcast about embrace mistakes. Unlock your growth mindset.
Let's listen to it.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Today, we're talking about something that everyone deals with, making mistakes.
Hi everyone. Mistakes aren't bad. In fact, they're an important part of learning and growing.
Exactly. Did you know that researchers at the University of California found that our brains actually grow when we make mistakes?
Really? That's fascinating.
It is. When we make a mistake, our brain sets new connections to try and figure out what went wrong. That's why mistakes are so valuable.
I love that. And think about it. When you learned to ride a bike, did you get it perfect the first time? Definitely not. I fell so many times, but every fall taught me how to balance better.
Exactly. So, every mistake is like a little lesson.
And that's what today's episode is all about. How to embrace mistakes and use them to grow. So, Mark, have you ever heard of the term growth mindset?
Oh yes. It's a concept introduced by Dr. Carol Dweck, a psychologist at Stanford University.
That's right. A growth mindset is when you believe that your abilities can improve with effort and practice. The opposite of that is a fixed mindset, where people think they're either good at something or not, and there's no room for change.
Exactly. Let's take language learning as an example. If you have a growth mindset, you might say, I'm not fluent yet, but I'm getting better every day. But with a fixed mindset, you might think, I'm just not good at learning languages, so why try?
And that kind of thinking can stop you from improving. Research shows that people with a growth mindset are more likely to succeed because they keep trying, even when things get tough.
That's so true. And mistakes are a big part of this process. Instead of seeing them as failures, people with a growth mindset see them as steps towards success.
I love that perspective. It's like turning every oops into an aha moment. So, if you've made a mistake recently, don't be too hard on yourself. Remember, it's just your brain's way of saying, hey, let's grow.
Great idea. Let's start with a story everyone knows. Thomas Edison.
The inventor of the light bulb.
Exactly. When someone asked Edison about his failed attempts, he reportedly said, I didn't fail. I just found 10,000 ways that didn't work.
That's such a powerful mindset. Instead of giving up, he kept learning and improving.
And because of that, we have light bulbs today. His mistakes weren't failures, they were steps toward success.
That's a classic example. But it's not just about inventors. Think about basketball players. Did you know that Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players ever, was cut from his high school basketball team?
No way.
Yes. But instead of giving up, he practiced harder and came back, even stronger. He once said, I've failed over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed.
That's so inspiring. It shows how important it is to keep going, even when things feel tough.
Absolutely. And let's not forget small everyday examples, like learning a new language. I remember when I first tried speaking Spanish during my trip to Spain. I made so many grammar mistakes.
And how did people react?
They were so kind. They appreciated my effort and even helped me improve.
That's a perfect example. Every mistake taught you something, and in the end, you became better at Spanish.
Right. The key is to see mistakes as part of the process, not as something to be ashamed of. Whether you're an inventor, an athlete, or just someone learning a new skill, mistakes help you grow.
So, to our listeners, don't fear mistakes. Embrace them. Each one is a stepping stone to your success.
Okay, Mark, but here's a big question. How do you stay motivated after making a mistake?
That's a great question, Emma. Because, let's be honest, making mistakes can feel frustrating, even embarrassing sometimes.
Absolutely. But the first thing to remember is that it's okay to feel that way. It's normal. Instead of focusing on what went wrong, ask yourself, What can I learn from this?
That's so helpful. It turns the situation into a learning opportunity. For example, instead of saying, I'm terrible at this or that, you can think, next time, I'll practice more.
That's a great mindset. Another tip I love is to celebrate small wins. Maybe you made a mistake, but you also did something right. Focus on that too.
Yes. Like if you're learning to cook and the dish doesn't taste perfect, but you learned how to chop vegetables correctly, that's progress.
Totally. And here's another idea. Talk to someone about it. A friend, a teacher, or even a mentor. They can give you a fresh perspective and remind you that one mistake doesn't define you.
That's true. Sometimes we're our own worst critics, and hearing someone else's encouragement can make a big difference.
And let's not forget self-care. If a mistake has you feeling down, take a break. Go for a walk, listen to music, or do something that makes you happy.
Absolutely. Taking care of yourself helps you come back stronger.
And remember, progress takes time. No one becomes an expert overnight. Be patient with yourself and keep going.
That's great advice, Emma. To our listeners, don't let one mistake stop you and keep moving forward.
Exactly. Every mistake is a chance to grow, and every step forward is worth celebrating.
So to our listeners, don't give up. Celebrate your progress.
And stay curious. Every mistake teaches you something new.
Thanks for joining us. Keep learning, keep growing, and embrace mistakes.
Bye for now.
It was a very inspiring podcast, Lisa.
Agreed. I loved how they said mistakes are opportunities to grow.
That Edison quote was my favorite, seeing failures as steps to success.
Same here. It's such a good reminder to keep trying.
Absolutely. Let's embrace those oops moments more often.
Absolutely, Eric. Okay, well, let's start our podcast. What are the words today, Eric?
The first word today is fixed. Then we will continue with mindset and be likely to. Then ashamed. And the final one is no more room for something.
Let's start with the first word.
The first word is fixed.
Fixed.
Fixed is an adjective. It means something that doesn't change or is set and cannot move. For example, if you have a fixed schedule, it means your schedule is the same every day, and it doesn't change.
Oh, like a fixed price at a store. That means the price stays the same, no matter what.
Exactly. Here's an example sentence. The train leaves at a fixed time every morning, 7:30 a.m. This means the train always leaves at the same time, and the time doesn't change.
Here's another example. The restaurant has a fixed menu, so you cannot ask for different dishes. This means the menu always stays the same. You cannot change it.
Now let's talk a bit about how to use fixed in a sentence. For example, you usually use fixed with nouns like price, schedule, time, or idea.
That's right. You might also hear people say fixed on something. For example, he's fixed on his goal, which means he's focused and won't change his mind.
Good point, Lisa.
So, fixed is a really useful word to describe things that don't change, like schedules, plans, or even ideas. Okay, well, I think now our listeners understand the word fixed better. Shall we move on to the next word?
Let's do that. The next word is mindset.
Mindset.
Mindset is a noun. It means the way a person thinks about something or their attitude towards it. For example, if someone has a positive mindset, they look at things in a hopeful and optimistic way.
Oh, I like that. So, it's like saying whether someone has a positive or negative way of thinking about something, right?
Exactly. For example, if someone has a growth mindset, they believe they can improve by learning and working hard. On the other hand, if someone has a fixed mindset, they might think their abilities or talents cannot change. Here's an example sentence. She has a strong mindset and never gives up. even when things are hard. This means she thinks in a determined way and stays positive, even in difficult situations.
Here's another example. His mindset about exercise changed after he started feeling healthier. This means he started thinking about exercise in a better, more positive way.
Good example, Lisa. And mindset is used in both formal and informal situations. You might hear it in a motivational speech, in a classroom, or even in everyday conversations.
That's a good tip. Remember, your mindset affects how you handle challenges and opportunities in life. Okay, well, I think now our listeners understand the word mindset better. Let's move on to the next word.
The next word is be likely.
Be likely.
Be likely is an adjective used to talk about something that will probably happen. It means there's a good chance something will happen, but it's not 100% certain.
Oh, so if you say, it's likely to rain tomorrow, it means it will probably rain, but you're not completely sure.
Exactly. Here's an example sentence. She is likely to arrive early because she left the house on time. This means she will probably get there early, but it's not certain.
Here's another example. They are likely to win the game since they've been practicing a lot. This means they will probably win because they are well prepared.
Now let's talk about grammar. Be likely is often followed by to plus verb, like likely to rain or likely to win. You can also use it with a subject like it is likely that she will arrive early.
Eric, sometimes very likely or most likely, is used. What does it mean?
Most likely means the thing that has the highest chance of happening.
Can we hear some examples?
Sure, Lisa. For example, it's most likely going to rain tomorrow because the weather forecast says so. Here's another one. When he's late, it's most likely because of traffic.
What about, I am very likely to travel to Spain next year?
Good example. It means that you are planning to visit Spain in the upcoming year, but there's still some uncertainty. The phrase very likely suggests a high probability, but not absolute certainty.
Okay, I got it. It must be very common in daily English, Eric.
Yes, Lisa. It is, and it is used in informal and formal situations as well.
Okay, well, I think we've explained be likely pretty well. Let's move on to the next word.
The next word is ashamed.
Ashamed.
Ashamed is an adjective. It means feeling bad or guilty about something you did wrong or feeling embarrassed about something. For example, if you make a mistake, you might feel ashamed because you know you could have done better.
Oh, I see. For example, when someone lies, they feel ashamed because they know it isn't the right thing to do.
Exactly. Here's an example sentence. He was ashamed of forgetting his friend's birthday. This means he felt bad because he didn't remember something important.
Here's another example. She felt ashamed when she failed her test, even though she tried her best. This means she felt embarrassed and upset about not passing the test.
Now, let's talk about grammar. After ashamed, we often use the prepositions of or for. For example, I'm ashamed of my behavior last night. Or she's ashamed for not telling the truth.
That's a helpful tip. Remember, feeling ashamed isn't always bad. It can help us learn from our mistakes and do better next time.
Agreed, Lisa.
Okay, well, we've reached the last word today. What is the last word, Eric?
The last word is no more room for something.
No more room for something.
This idiom means there is no space left for something, either physically or in a non-physical way. For example, if your suitcase is full, you can say, there's no more room for clothes, which means you can't fit anything else in it.
Oh, I get it. You can also use it for things like time or emotions. For example, there's no more room for mistakes, meaning there's no chance to make any more errors.
Exactly. Here's an example sentence related to a physical situation. The fridge is so full, there's no more room for food. This means the fridge has no space left to store anything else.
My example is about a non-physical situation. There's no more room for anger in her life. She wants to be happy. This means she doesn't want to feel angry anymore and wants to focus on positive emotions instead.
Let me give you another example, Lisa. We have no more room for any mistakes in this project. This means that from now on, we shouldn't make any mistakes.
Or, there's no more room for debate in this decision.
Perfect. Now, let's talk about grammar. You usually say no more room for, followed by a noun like food, mistakes, or clothes. It's often used to talk about both physical and emotional limits.
Okay, to wrap up, no more room for something can mean 1. No physical space left, or 2. No capacity or tolerance left for something. It's flexible and works in many situations. Right?
Perfect summary, Lisa.
Okay, well, that's it for today's episode of Simply Explained English. We hope you found the words helpful and the explanations easy to understand.
Thanks for listening. Keep studying your English.
And stay tuned. Bye for now. I am Lisa.
And I'm Eric. Do you want to improve your English easily? If so, you're in the right place.
Okay, today we'll listen to a podcast about 5 tips for learning English with movies.
Let's listen to it.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Emma.
And I'm Mark. It's great to be here.
We're so excited to talk to you today about something we both love, learning English with movies.
Yes, it's a fun way to learn. Today we'll share some cool ideas to help you improve your English by watching films.
We'll talk about 5 different methods. They are all easy to try at home.
And if you improve your listening and vocabulary, this podcast is for you.
So, let's get started and see how we can make learning English fun with movies.
Are you ready, Emma?
Absolutely, Mark. Let's do it.
Okay, so let's have a look at the 5 methods.
Revoice scenes. Pause a scene, repeat the lines, and record yourself.
Scene cards. Write phrases or words on cards and remember the scenes.
Vocabulary catch game. Write down new words while watching and use them later.
Multiple viewing modes. Watch with subtitles in your language, in English, and without subtitles.
Discussion. Talk about the movie with yourself or a friend.
Let's start with our first method. It's called revoice scenes.
Yes, this one is really fun. So what do?
Well, you watch a movie, and when there's a short scene, you stop it. Then, you try to say the words yourself.
It's like becoming a voice actor for a moment. When you imitate the characters, you practice pronunciation, intonation, and emotion.
And you can record yourself. Then, you can listen to your voice and see how you sound.
This is great for your pronunciation. It helps you with the sounds of the words. And it helps you with your intonation, how your voice goes up and down.
I tried this with my favorite comedy. It was so funny to hear my voice saying the lines. It really helped me feel more confident.
All right, let's move on to our second method. Scene cards.
Yes, this one is very useful. So, what are scene cards?
Well, when you watch a movie, you write down some important dialogues or phrases on small cards.
Like, you can write down important lines, interesting expressions, or maybe a new word.
Exactly. And then, after you write it, you try to remember the scene. You try to see it in your head.
And you can also try to remember how the actors moved, their gestures and expressions.
Yes. This helps you remember the words and the feelings of the scene. It's like a memory game.
I like to use scene cards for action movies. I write down the cool phrases and try to act them out.
I like to use them for romantic movies. I write down the sweet dialogues. It helps me remember the words better.
Okay, Emma, are you ready for our third method?
Yes, I am.
Well, it's called the vocabulary catch game. When you watch a movie, you try to catch certain types of words.
Like what?
Like phrasal verbs. Like look up, look after, pick up, take off, maybe words about emotions.
Ah, yes. So, when you hear one, you write it down quickly.
Exactly. And then, after the movie, you try to use those words in your own sentences.
That's a great idea. It helps you use the words in real life.
Yes, it makes the words stick in your head. I remember once, I was watching a movie, and I caught so many phrasal verbs.
What was the most interesting word you caught?
I think it was figure out. It's a very useful one.
It is. This game is a great way to learn new words and use them actively. Okay, Mark, let's talk about our fourth method, multiple viewing modes.
Yes, this one is very helpful. So what do we do?
Well, instead of watching a movie just once, you watch it a few times, but in different ways.
First, you watch it with your native language subtitles. This helps you understand the story. Next, switch to English subtitles. Finally, watch with no subtitles at all for an extra challenge.
It's like training your ears. At first, it can be hard to watch without subtitles.
Yes, I remember when I first tried it, it was difficult. But after a while, it became easier.
It's a great way to improve your listening skills and learn new words.
And you can watch your favorite scenes again and again. All right, Emma, let's move on to our fifth and final method, discussion based on the movie.
Yes, this is a great way to practice speaking. So what do we do?
Well, after you watch a movie, you talk about it. You can talk to yourself or with a friend.
You can ask questions like, what did you think about the main character? Or, what would you do if you were them?
Exactly. You can talk about the story, the characters, or the ending.
It helps you think about the movie in English and share your ideas.
It's like having a conversation about the movie. I like to ask myself, if I were the main character, what would I do?
That's a great way to practice. It helps you organize your thoughts and express them in English.
It's a fun way to improve your speaking skills.
Now let's talk about our own experiences, Mark. How did you use movies to learn Spanish?
Well, when I started learning Spanish, I watched a lot of movies with subtitles. At first, I was very dependent on them.
Me too. I remember it was hard to understand fast conversations.
Yes, but I kept practicing. I tried all the methods we talked about today.
And it really helped. I started to understand more and more without subtitles.
Okay, everyone, let's quickly remember the 5 methods we talked about today.
Yes, we had revoice scenes, scene cards, vocabulary catch game, multiple viewing modes, and discussion.
We hope you try these methods and have fun learning English with movies.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast today.
We hope you found it helpful. Which method will you try first?
Maybe start with revoice scenes. It's really fun.
Yes, or vocabulary catch game. It's a great way to learn new words.
We'll be back with more tips next time.
See you next time.
Bye, everyone.
What do you think about the podcast, Lisa?
It was so interesting and useful, Eric. I really liked their first method, revoice scenes.
Me too. I think it would be fun to try that with a comedy movie. Which method do you think is easiest to start with?
Probably multiple viewing modes. Starting with subtitles and then removing them later on.
Agreed, Lisa.
Okay, well, let's start our podcast, Eric. What are the words today, Eric?
The first word today is depend on. Then we will continue with look after someone or something and take off. Then figure out. And the final one is stick in your mind.
Let's start with the first word.
The first word is depend on.
Depend on.
Depend on is a phrasal verb. It describes situations where one thing is affected by another. It also means to trust someone or something. For example, when we say our plans depend on the weather, it means the weather will affect our plans. Or we can also say The price of the tickets depends on the seats. This means the ticket cost changes according to the seat location.
For the second meaning, I can always depend on my best friend. Means I can trust my best friend to help me. Let me give another example. Children depend on their parents for food and shelter. This means children need their parents to provide these things.
Good example, Lisa. Depend on is a verb. Its adjective form is to be dependent on. For example, he's still financially dependent on his parents. This means his parents still help him financially.
That's a good tip. What about pronouns? Can I say, it depends on me or it depends on her?
Absolutely. You can use depend on with pronouns like me, you, him, etc. For example, the decision depends on her, or it depends on you.
So, depend on is great for talking about needs or trust.
Yes, Lisa, and it's a very useful phrase in both everyday conversations and formal situations.
Okay, well, we've explained depend on pretty well. Now, shall we move on to the next phrase?
Let's do that. The next word is look after someone or something.
Look after someone or something.
Look after someone or something is a phrasal verb that means to take care of them. It's about being responsible for their well-being or making sure they're okay.
You can also use it for things like, please look after my plants while I'm on vacation. That means taking care of the plants by watering them and keeping them healthy.
Here's an example. He looks after his younger brother when their parents are at work. This means he takes care of his brother by making sure he's safe and happy.
Another example. Can you look after my bag while I go to the restroom? This means, can you keep my bag safe for a short time?
Exactly. You can look after people, animals, or even objects. Like, can you look after my plants while I'm on vacation?
So, it's all about being responsible for something or someone.
That's right. It's also used in British English more often than American English, but it's understood everywhere. And also, it's neutral, so you can use it in any situation. For example, you might say, I look after my grandparents in a casual chat, or I look after client accounts in a formal work setting.
Okay, I think we've explained look after really well. Let's move on to the next word, Eric.
The next word is take off.
Take off.
Take off has a few meanings. Let's start with the first meaning, to remove something. When we say take off, we often mean to remove clothes or accessories. For example, he took off his clothes and got into the shower.
Here's another example. It's hot today. I'll take off my jacket.
Yes, Lisa, meaning to leave the ground. We often use this when talking about airplanes. For example, the plane will take off at 3 p.m.
Here's another example. Everyone, fasten your seatbelts. The plane is about to take off.
Good one, Lisa. This meaning is all about movement into the air. The third meaning is to leave quickly or suddenly. For example, when the bell rang, the students took off to play outside.
Here's another one. I saw a rabbit in the garden, but it took off when it heard me.
Great example. This meaning is all about leaving in a hurry.
So, take off means to talk about flights, removing things, or leaving quickly.
Perfect summary, Lisa.
Okay, I think we've explained take off well. Now, shall we move on to the next word?
Let's do that. The next word is figure out.
Figure out.
Figure out is a phrasal verb. It means to understand something or solve a problem. Let's break it down with some examples and tips. The first meaning of figure out is to solve a problem. For example, I couldn't open the box, but I figured out how to do it.
Oh, that's a good one. It means you found the solution. Here's another example. Can you figure out this math problem? It's so hard.
Perfect. In this way, figure out is all about solving or finding an answer. The second meaning is to understand something, especially when it's confusing at first. For example, I couldn't figure out why my phone wasn't working, but then I saw the battery was dead.
Another example is, she figured out how to use the new coffee machine.
Good one, Lisa. It means she learned or understood how to use it.
Okay, well, I think we've reached the last word of today. What is the last word, Eric?
The last word is stick in someone's mind.
Stick in someone's mind.
This idiom means that something is memorable or hard to forget. It's often used to describe things like events, ideas, or words that leave a strong impression. For example, a powerful speech might stick in your mind because it's so meaningful.
It's similar to saying that something is unforgettable. For example, if someone tells you a story that you keep thinking about, you can say, "That story really stuck in my mind."
Yes, Lisa. Another one. The teacher's advice stuck in my mind. This means the advice was so important or interesting that I remembered it.
Or we can say, "That beautiful sunset will always stick in my mind." This means the sunset was so amazing that I'll never forget it.
When you use this idiom, you can replace mind with head or memory, like stick in my memory or stick in her head. It's commonly used to talk about both positive and meaningful things, and it's a polite and expressive way to describe something that you can't forget.
So, stick in someone's mind is a great phrase for talking about things that leave a lasting impression. Okay, well, that's it for today's episode of Simply Explained English. We hope you found the words helpful and the explanations easy to understand.
Thanks for listening. Keep studying your English
And stay tuned. Bye for now.